If I were to ask you right now, wherever you are, whatever weight you're carrying, to sit very still and trace the thread of your life backward, you would encounter something profoundly unsettling. You would find that your life, in retrospect, makes perfect sense. But it doesn't make sense the way a math problem or a textbook makes sense. It makes sense the way a dream does while you're still inside the sleep. You know that peculiar, surreal logic of the dreaming mind. A horse walks through your kitchen. Your mother has the face of a stranger. The laws of gravity bend, and yet you don't question it. In the dream state, it fits, it belongs. It is only when you wake up, when you step into the cold light of the analytical mind, that you say, well, that was absurd. But here is the psychological mirror. Your life, when viewed through the rearview mirror, has that exact same dream-like quality. It flows. It has a narrative arc that feels inevitable. And this is worth sitting with for a moment, because we almost never experience life that way moving forward. Going forward, life feels like a storm of chaos and jagged uncertainty. You stand at life's many crossroads and you agonize. You lie awake at 3:00 a.m., the blue light of your phone illuminating a face lined with worry, wondering if you've made a catastrophic wrong turn. You think, if only I had taken that other job. If only I had said yes to that invitation. If only I had stayed. If only I had left when I had the chance. But then 5 or 10 years pass. You look back and you see that all of it, the mess, the heartbreak, the wrong turns, and the agonizing detours led exactly here, to this room, to this breath, to this very moment of your existence. When you look back, you can't actually find the mistake. Oh, you can find pain. You can find seasons of immense suffering. You can find things you deeply regret. But you cannot find the specific point where you truly went off the path. Because here is the secret that psychology and ancient wisdom both whisper: there was no other path. Now I know how that sounds. It sounds like fatalism. It sounds like I'm suggesting you're a puppet on a string, that your choices are an illusion and everything is predetermined by some cosmic script. That's a gloomy, hollow way to live. But that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm pointing to is something much more sophisticated, much more slippery. If you can feel this, not just analyze it with your brain, but feel it in your gut. Something inside your nervous system will relax in a way it hasn't relaxed in years. We walk around with a chronic, low-grade fever of anxiety that we might miss our lives. That's the core fear, isn't it? It's not just that things will be hard. It's the fear that we'll take the wrong road and end up at the wrong destination. We believe there was a correct life, a platonic ideal of our existence, and that we've somehow wandered away from it into a pale imitation. We carry this unlived life like a heavy rucksack. You're likely carrying it right now. The sense that you should be further along. The belief that your mistakes cost you the real version of your destiny. But I want you to consider a radical psychological shift. What if that feeling of being lost was the path itself? What if the confusion wasn't a deviation from your journey, but the actual texture of the journey? Consider the nature of a river. I've always been fascinated by rivers because they possess an intelligence that humans lack. A river never pauses to ask, am I heading toward the ocean in the most efficient way? It doesn't stand still and worry about its reputation. It doesn't look at a massive boulder in its way and think, oh no, I'm blocked. I've failed as a body of water. I should have been more like that straight running stream over there. No, the river simply moves. When it hits an obstacle, it goes around it. It goes under it. It carves a path through it over 1,000 years if it has to. And the miraculous thing is that the river always inevitably reaches the sea. It doesn't reach the sea despite the obstacles. It reaches the sea because of them. The winding is how the river gathers its strength. And you are a winding thing. You were never meant to be a straight line. Our modern culture, obsessed with optimization and efficiency, tells you to go directly from point A to point B. It tells you to march like a soldier. But humans don't move like soldiers. We move like music. We move like a conversation that changes direction 17 times and somehow ends up exactly where it needed to go. I remember a time years ago when I was hiking in a remote mountain range. I was younger then, and I believed in the power of the map. I had planned my route with clinical precision. I would ascend this trail, cross this specific ridge, and arrive at a mountain hut by nightfall. It was orderly, it was responsible, but the mountains don't care about your plans. By morning, a thick white fog had swallowed the world. I took a wrong turn almost immediately, though I didn't realize it for hours. By the time the fog lifted, I looked at my map and realized I wasn't on it. I was in the white space. I was completely lost. The logical, correct thing to do would have been to panic, retrace my steps, and try to find the right path again. But a strange intuition took hold of me. Something in the silence of the trees suggested I should just keep walking. It wasn't a rational choice. It was a surrender. I walked for the rest of the day through terrain I had never intended to see. I crossed meadows that felt like they belonged to another century. I found a hidden waterfall that wasn't marked on any tourist guide. And as the sun began to dip below the horizon, I crested a final ridge, and there, nestled in the valley below, was the hut. I had arrived at the exact destination I intended, but I had arrived from the wrong direction. I had used the wrong route to get to the right place. I stood there, breathing in the thin mountain air, and I started to laugh. I realized that the map was just a concept, a simplified drawing of a reality that was much more complex. I wasn't walking on a map, I was walking on a mountain, and the mountain knew the way even when I didn't. We think clarity is the goal. We tell ourselves, if only I could see the path clearly, then I would have the courage to walk it. But what if clarity isn't the beginning? What if clarity is the reward you get at the very end? What if you're supposed to walk through the fog, trusting that your feet possess a wisdom your anxious mind lacks? This is incredibly difficult for us because we live in a society that worships the intellect. We worship strategy, 5-year plans, and the illusion of control. And look, maps are great for navigating cities, but they are terrible for navigating a human soul. Your life is not a mechanism, it is an organism. It responds, it breathes, it catches you when you fall, and sometimes it allows you to fall because falling is the only way to break open the things that need to grow. Think of a seed buried in the earth. If that seed had a human brain, it would be terrified. It would feel the weight of the dirt, the cold dampness, the suffocating darkness. It would think, I've been buried, I'm dying, everything has gone wrong. I'm supposed to be in the sunlight, but I'm trapped in the mud. But the burial isn't the end, it's the requirement. The pressure of the soil is what cracks the hard outer shell. The darkness is what coaxes the roots to reach deeper. What the seed perceives as an ending is actually the violent beginning of its transformation into a tree. You have been buried many times. You know the feeling, those dark nights of the soul where you couldn't see a way out. Those seasons where you felt like your potential was being crushed by the weight of your circumstances. In those moments, you weren't dying. You were just shedding a shell that had become too small for the person you were becoming. There is a word we often misuse: destiny. We tend to think of destiny as a fixed point on a GPS, a destination we are supposed to reach. But in a psychological sense, destiny isn't a place. Destiny is a movement. Think about the physics of walking. When you walk, you are actually engaging in a process of controlled falling. To take a step, you have to lean forward and lose your balance. You are, for a split second, falling toward the ground. But then your other foot swings forward and catches you. Lean, fall, catch. Lean, fall, catch. You are always falling through your life. You are always slightly off balance. And this eternal toppling is the only way you move forward. When children learn to walk, they fall constantly. We don't look at a crawling baby who trips and say, well, she's a failure. She clearly chose the wrong path. We clap. We cheer. We know that the falling is the proof of the learning. When did we stop being that kind to ourselves? When did we decide that falling in our careers or our relationships was a sign of failure rather than a sign of locomotion? I see so many people, and I include myself in this, who paralyze themselves with the fear of making the wrong choice. We freeze because we're so afraid of falling that we refuse to take the step. And then we wonder why we feel stuck, why our lives feel stagnant. You cannot walk without the risk of the fall. Every choice you make is a step into the unknown. Even the safe choices are just falls in a direction that feels familiar. There's a beautiful concept in music theory called tension and release. A melody isn't just a series of notes, it's a journey of longing. One note reaches for the next, creating a sense of incompletion, a tension. When the next note arrives, there is a momentary release, a sense of, aha, we've arrived. But immediately, that new note begins to reach for the next one. The beauty of the music is in the reaching, not just the arriving. You are that melody. You aren't walking on a path. You are the path unfolding in real time. You are the music that is composing itself as it plays. When I was a young child, maybe 7 years old, I used to play a game in my house. I would close my eyes tight and try to navigate from my bedroom to the kitchen without peeking. I would hold my hands out in front of me, shuffling my feet, feeling the change in the carpet's texture. There was a delicious kind of fear in that. Every step was a question. Where am I? What's in front of me? Will I bump into the door frame? Even though I knew the house by heart, the darkness made it new. It made me pay attention to the subtle signals, the draft of air from a window, the sound of the refrigerator humming. I didn't know it then, but I was practicing blind trust. True trust isn't based on a calculation of safety. If you can see the ground is solid, walking on it doesn't require trust. It just requires eyesight. Real trust is what happens when you step forward into the fog. Real trust is saying yes to your life even when your life isn't giving you an explanation. We spend so much energy demanding that life show us the floor plan. We want to know if the relationship will last, if the business will succeed, if the move will be worth it. We want a guarantee. And life, in its quiet wisdom, just keeps saying, walk, just walk. You will either be caught by grace or you will be taught by the fall. Either way, you will arrive somewhere. And that somewhere will become the only place you could have ever been, because you are the one who carved the trail with your own 2 feet. This is your destiny, not a pre-written script, but a masterpiece in progress. You are in motion, you are learning, and you are arriving, even when you feel like you're just falling forward.